Welcome to a new episode. I'm your girl T Westbrook, and I'm here with Deja Monee.
Hi.
Hey, so I'm so happy to be with you today, or just be talking to you today. For people who don't know who Deja is, she works in the PR industry. She's an entrepreneur, girl boss, creative. All right, so I know that you went to an HBCU in Atlanta, but talk to me a little bit about just your overall experience there.
Yes, I am a proud graduate of Clark Atlanta University. I went to visit last week because I was in Atlanta for some work. So I was just walking around the campus. But yeah, it really just helped shape who I am today, especially being an entrepreneur. The city of Atlanta, I can't really only just give credit to Clark Atlanta, but of course, the foundation of learning about communications. I studied communications there, but really some of the opportunities that I was able to do, like being a college student. So being able to see other PR professionals. I remember being in Atlanta at the time, which was around, I would say 2008 to 2012. So Nicole Garner, for those of you that are big in the PR space, she had her company, she was running it in Atlanta at the time. So being able to just volunteer and see some of her events, and then also being really involved with the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists and the student chapter there. So really understanding the full scope of communications definitely helped me to bring me to where I am today. And I will also add just the relationships that I built. Like I have people that I went to school with, or, went to Clark after me, that I'm connected with. We're in this, big community that helped me, to run my business, whether it's referrals or I'm pitching them a story, or if I'm, working with them as a client. So I definitely never regret the HBCU experience, and I always recommend it for people if they can try to do it for themselves. So
Yeah, that's great. I always recommend the HBCU experience as well. I was just talking to a young lady who's at a PWI, and she asked me what the primary difference was, or what is all the hype about? And it's a lot of the things that you just mentioned. It's not only the connections that you make, but it's the culture, and it's about being around like-minded individuals who we have the
they
opportunity
just get
to
it.
see, we have the opportunity to see the world beyond, and that's what college is all about. So how did you end up in Atlanta? Where are you originally from?
So my family is, long story. So I was born in North Carolina. My dad was in the military. All my family, exception of me, was born in North Carolina. And then we moved to Philadelphia. So once my dad left the Gulf War, so he's a veteran, my mom packed up and was like, "Up, it's time to go." So I was raised up north, and I would spend my summers in the South. So every summer I was that kid my mom was driving me down to North Carolina to spend time with like my grandparents and stuff. So
Okay, so you were raised primarily in the South. So what was it like, I guess, being a child did you have to move around a lot when it comes to
being in the no,
the
because
military?
my dad only served like one term. He was over it. So
Yeah.
yep. And so being that I will say this, being that my dad did live in the South and my mom raised me in the North, I spent a lot of time traveling back and forth. So I think that definitely cultivated my love for travel, because at a very early age, I was either on a plane, or I was like in a car, or always, going somewhere, between winter breaks or, summer vacation. So I think that definitely just cultivated, one, my love for travel. And that's something that I try to incorporate a lot into my business too. And I think it's great because I'm able to travel to different places because of my clients. So I think I've always picked up that affinity to want to travel and explore different places and different cultures.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So your mom, you said you and your mom were up north. Where up north?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so I bet that was a major cultural difference from Philly to North Carolina.
Yeah. In North Carolina, definitely, especially where my parents are from originally, it's a small town. The biggest town, it's like Fayetteville, which is like the military base and stuff. So yeah, I would go from, living in the city and having, so many people around and all these different things to, being in the middle of nowhere and like, my grandfather, like having wild animals, like my grandfather had like an ox. His name was Henry. Goats and chickens, like literally. So it was just like interesting. And that also, I think too, developed my love for animals as well. But like, yeah, like I grew up like kind of in contrast, if that makes sense. So it was like I had the best of both worlds because I got to explore. I will say too, because I spent a lot of my summers in North Carolina and there wasn't a ton to do, that really helped cultivate my love for reading. So I used to go to the library because that was really like the only thing for me to do outside of, just, riding around playing with animals and stuff. But so would be, I would go to the library club and I was always reading. And my uncle definitely helped me to really fine tune that passion. So I would say it definitely helped me to like learn the best of both sides and appreciate, having that opportunity just to sit and be quiet because, the signal is not that great. There's Wi-Fi, but it's kind of spotty. It's not like, it being in New York where you're connected and tapped into everything. So it definitely taught me to just learn how to appreciate both.
Yeah, I bet. And so I guess I would consider myself not transient, but I was born in Chicago and then
Nice. I love Chicago.
Chicago. Look,
my dad was born in Chicago, actually.
Yeah, Chicago's lit, but I could definitely relate to like the north-south differences. I bet you really gain the skill of being adaptable in different environments. I know that's something that I picked up from just moving back and forth, from a big city to small town and vice versa. So yeah. So how did you end up choosing communications as a major? Like what sparked that for you?
Yeah, so how I ended up choosing it. So I was in high school. I just went off what I like doing. So I know I was very good at writing. Math has never been my thing. I know basic math. I know how to count my money, right? But besides that, I don't care about none of that stuff, right? So I knew writing was always a strong skill for me. I know like talking, I was always comfortable talking and communicating with people. So I just started doing research in different careers. Initially, I wanted to do just journalism. This wasn't even like PR wasn't even a concept yet. Like I didn't get to PR until like later towards the end of my college career. But I pretty much was just looking at things that I was interested in. And I also knew that I always wanted to go to HBCU because that was something that my dad and I always talked about. And both my parents went to HBCUs. They didn't graduate, but they did go. And so I know that was something that they both encouraged me to do, or at least like, do a semester. If you don't like it, you can go somewhere else, but at least do that semester. We want you to get that experience. But pretty much that's how I got to wanting to study communications, just following the things that I knew I was naturally gifted at. I didn't want to do a career where I know some people's parents are like, pick a career where, you're going to make a lot of money. I started with what I enjoyed first. And I've always felt like that would lead me to making the money that I wanted to make.
That is so, it's so interesting because that's the opposite approach I took in college. So I have a degree in accounting. So
nice.
My parents, neither one of them went to an HBCU and they had some college experience, but I wanted to go to school for dance. And my mom was like, hell no, you need to go to school. You need to go to school. And if you're going to go to school, it needs to be something that you can make money from. And I didn't realize like what you said about doing what you love first and the money will come until later into my adulthood. And that's like such an important message, right? Because if you build up like your skill set and what you're passionate about early on, then eventually the money will come, because money comes from like your expertise, your experience.
I had to, deal with that lesson too, because even with communication, it's so diverse and vast, right? Like, by the time I graduated college, like, this was like around 2012 to give context, social media marketing and digital marketing, all that stuff was like, becoming really popular. So I had a stint in where I was doing a little bit more digital marketing than PR, and I didn't really like it. And I learned some hard lessons because of that. So
what
I
were
think
you
everybody
doing in
does that.
digital marketing?
You said what?
What were you doing in digital marketing?
I was doing social. So first, my very first job. Let me back up. My very first job out of college was I was a copywriter. So I was working at a smaller agency in right outside of Philadelphia, and I was writing website copy for small businesses like mom and pop places. And it was okay. The company, right. And then I was like, you know what? They were doing layoffs and things like that. This is my first job out of college, whatever. So I decided to apply to, and I was trying to apply to other stuff, but it just wasn't landing. So I applied to another position within the company, and I was doing more so search engine marketing. Hated it, but it landed me to going to New York eventually, which kind of like catapulted other things in my PR agency. So I had always started my PR agency right after I had finished grad school. So I finished grad school in 2013. So I was doing my PR agency, doing a copywriter at this horrible job, and then transitioning into another place because I was like, okay, I just don't want to get fired. And they ended up doing stuff I like the writing part. I really didn't like the search engine marketing part, but I stuck with it and it landed me. It's a long story, but I ended up going to another agency in New York to do the same thing, and I hated it, and I ended up getting fired from it. So, which
from the SEO stuff, right?
From not doing what I love to do. So that's why I always tell people, if I could go back in retrospect, don't take a job just to take it, because like sometimes like it's your passion that's going to sustain you and fuel you through all those things. So like I learned that lesson, and regardless, even though I started off doing what I thought I wanted to do, but yeah.
Yeah. But again, that's all about the creative journey, right? Because whether you're an entrepreneur or you're going into corporate America as a creative or, anybody with the skill set, it takes a while to figure out, okay, I'm interested in this, but this is not fun. I'm interested in this, but I'm not good at it. It could be anything. So it just takes a while. And that's why the journey is so, important.
Right.
Okay, so let's get into it. So did you have any internships when you were at Clark, or how did you transition into talk about it because it's so important to have internships.
So I did a few internships. Most notable ones I did. So and this is why I encourage people that are in college now to be innovative. Just because you don't see a position on a site, if you really study your craft, you're passionate, things will line up. So one of my internships that I created that was not even like on a site anywhere, I was being mentored by at the time, the director of promotions at Atlantic Records in the Southeast Division in Atlanta. She was a graduate her name is Kenan Kent. She's a graduate of Clark Atlanta University. I saw her years ago, like on a show, and I recognized her. And that's when I started, like, my mind started turning about like doing PR and stuff. And so when I saw her at we have this event called like Pause the Clause. And so it's like, connecting alumni with current students. And I was just talking to her, and I was just, having a really engaging conversation with her. And she was impressed. And she was just like, we don't have like an official internship program, but I do need some help with a few things in terms of a few artists. And so my internship opportunities just started there. I was literally assisting her with radio promotional things with artists. So some of the artists that I was able to do stuff with her were at the time was like B.O.B. Like she would have me like set up things for like he had like his birthday celebration at the radio station. So I will be doing like random things like grab balloons, like put these balloons together. She had like a listening party. So she was like, get some of your friends. I need help with this. So she really like gave me opportunities to kind of hone my craft more so on the event side of PR and music, even though I'm not like heavily in music as much anymore, but I still use those skills. In addition to that, other internships that I had, I was a promotions intern at a radio station in Philadelphia at the time. So this was around the time when this was like 2009. So this was at the time when Charlemagne the God was in Philly. And so he had a show.
See the God.
Yep. Yep. So he had a show. And it's just funny too how things work, because again, I was leveraging my network and connections. I had met him before. I didn't intern for his show directly. I interned for another show, but just leveraging my connections. I wasn't supposed to even have the internship because I was supposed to have it for credit. But again, I figured out a way. So CAU Clark Atlanta's motto is find a way and make one. I made a way to get those papers signed so I could intern and do what I wanted to do. So that was on one of the other internships. So Radio One actually is the network. And then I did a class that Jackie Reed, so she's a graduate of Clark Atlanta University as well. And so she did like a class that was cultivating people for just careers and communications. I ended up not interning with her because it was in New York, because it was my senior year. And honestly, I just wanted to go and get a job. I wanted a job to make money. So I was like, I don't want to go to New York and try to figure it out. Not just yet. I ended up going to New York later on in life. But I'm trying to think what else I did. I was really active on the campus. So there was like a radio station that we had. So I would intern with them. I did stuff with the school newspaper. And then also, I was president of the Association of Black Journalists student chapter at my campus. So those are like some of the different internships that I did. And then even in high school though too, because I forgot. So I was in a pre-college program. And so I would have like a summer internship like every summer that I got paid for. So I've always been interning for like a while actually, before I even started, like, you know.
Yeah. That's amazing, especially being that, well, in the Black community, a lot of times we don't even know internships exist, or like the possibilities are endless when it comes to those opportunities. So it's like the fact that you not only created opportunities for internships, but you can get started in school. So when you're in college, like working for the radio station, like you said, or the newspaper.
Even in high school now, though.
Yeah, even high school. Yeah.
And they pay now. Like, that's another thing too.
You said what?
I said, and they pay now. So my high school internships were paid because I was a part of a college prep program. Some of I'm trying to think. Most of my internships in college were not paid, but nowadays they're paid. So
that's interesting. So my first internship was there's an extension of the Boys and Girls Club called Girls Inc.
Oh yes, so, I'm familiar with Girls Inc.
So my first internship was doing like a dance program for Girls Inc. And then in college, all my internships were paid. The opportunities are out there. So if there's anything that you hear when it comes to this particular episode, it's like create your own opportunities. And if you're in college, you need an internship like yesterday. And you need more than one, to be honest. So let's fast forward a little bit and talk about your journey into PR. So you said when you were in college, you had an idea of where you wanted to go, and you soon realized that wasn't the direction that, made you happy in a sense. So how did you end up in PR? And talk to me more about the company that you started in your journey as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so in college, I was just studying communications, radio, TV, film. I did take a couple PR classes. I decided more so towards the end of my, like, more junior, senior year, that I wanted to do PR, and I wanted to officially change my major. It really, in hindsight, it wouldn't have made a ton of difference, because a lot of the stuff you learn in PR, it's in the field anyway. But I went to the PR advisor, and she was just like, oh, well, you would graduate a semester late if you change your major. So I was like, oh, nope, we're not doing that. And so that's when I started on this whole path of, I'm going to get as much in the field experience as possible. And that's what led me to like those different opportunities that I had previously mentioned. Now, in terms of me deciding to start my own company. So while I was in college, I actually had, and this wasn't even like a concept of, I'm gonna start my own business. And let me back up. I always knew I wanted to start my own business. I just knew, like, for instance, when I went to my college, my high school counselor for college, and I told her I wanted to start my own business, she was like, that's great. You need to study what it is that you want to start your business in. And so at that time, I knew it was going to be something in communications. I just didn't know it would be a PR agency. So just to give that context. So moving forward to me getting my very first client before I even like have an official company, and that me determining like, okay, I'm going to be consistent in terms of doing this, was more so the summer before I was graduating. My mom's friend was an author, and my mom was like, Deja is studying communications PR. You know how parents are. My mom don't know exactly what I do, but she just was like, she's studying something and she needs some money. So you can pay her to help you do a couple things with like social media and stuff like that. And so I did get paid for that. And that was my very first client. I didn't know what I was doing all the way, but we worked it out. So she was an author. So I essentially just set up like a book tour for her, and I did like some small like press things for her and helped her with managing social media. And I got paid a very little amount, but I put those things that I was learning into practice. So that was like a little bit, maybe like 2011, 2012. And then, so after I graduated, I was looking for a job. I decided, okay, well, I always wanted to go to grad school. Let me go to grad school first and figure out what I'm doing. That'll give me a little bit more time. And then I can also set up my PR company. So I started connecting with other publicists. I started connecting with a few organizations, and I was able to like take classes to learn how to set up my company and do the branding and figure out, the tactical skills in terms of being a publicist and running a PR agency. So officially in 2013, I launched my very first company, which was called Deluxe Publicity. And so I don't have that company anymore. What I have now is Intel Media Group. And that's because I have a business partner who is my best friend as well. We closed our companies down. We started our PR agency together. And that was in 2021. Last year, we started our company together. So.
Okay. So this is the Intel Media Group, right?
Yes.
Intel Media Group. So two things. Well, one thing.
Okay.
Walk me through a day in the life. So what is it like to own your own PR company? What are some of the operating activities that take place? And if I was an entrepreneur who was interested in starting my own PR company, what are some things that I need to make sure I'm doing every day?
Yeah, I laughed as you were saying a day in the life, because I'm like, no day is ever the same. So for instance, last week I was actually in Atlanta for a week. I had one of our clients is the Trap Music Museum. And so they had like a Black History exhibit. And so we were there reaching out to press, inviting influencers, things like that to, promote the exhibit. So what that looks like is more so like a satellite office. We usually work out of the Gathering spot in Atlanta. So I'm all about, supporting Black businesses. So we usually work there. We're meeting with our clients. We're going through what the day is going to look like. I'm calling press. So depending on what's going on, sometimes I'll reach out to like local press. So I'm calling press. We do have a team member in Atlanta. So our team is small, but we're growing. We have a team member there. So I'll have her come and assign different things to her, but a lot of it is just emails and phone calls, to be honest. The strategy piece, of course, we're brainstorming and figuring out ways to make our client's story as interesting and as enticing as possible, while keeping the integrity in terms of what the elements of that they have in mind. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And then the event. So it's, networking, connecting with different people, doing follow-ups, with media, making sure like, hey, like, here's the information that you need. Thank you for coming. They might, say, hey, like, I want to do a follow-up conversation with your client. Can you set that up for me? So it just depends, but that's like a general day. Now, when I'm not traveling, it's more just admin stuff. So I'm meeting with clients on a weekly basis, reporting. So giving them like activities in terms, some of the boring stuff, right? So this is what we did this week. This is where we are. Setting up press interviews, things like that. So,
okay. So, from a entrepreneurial perspective, or from a client perspective, if I wanted to pitch my business, or a story about my brand, what are some key things, or let's say, what's one key thing that you need to remember or a tip that you would give to business owners?
I would say do your research. So know who you're pitching and the audience that you're pitching to. So that publication, and then just know your story. So you have to be clear on what's going to make you stand out, because like I always tell people, there's so many people that do the same thing. Like there's a million publicists, there's a million beauty brands, there's a million, whatever it is that you do, I'm pretty sure somebody else does it, and that's okay. But the thing that makes you stand out are, think about the different things that are different for you, your upbringing, what inspired you. Maybe it's, your mom inspired you to do something. Like think about those different elements and how you can tie them in to your press story.
Okay, so with that being said, what is one thing that you highly don't recommend?
Being a nuisance, like DMing, like, hey, I sent you an email. A lot of journalists don't like to be DM'd, so you have to do some research to find their emails and contact information, and then send them an email that way. But please don't blast them on social media like, hey, like I'm trying to pitch you. Yeah, they don't like that.
Okay, so in the last segment of this podcast, this is where we really get into the boss of talk.
Okay.
So what I would like for you to do is share one thing that you feel will inspire other creative women, business women, entrepreneurs, moms, anybody that's has a dream. What is one thing that they could do to boss up?
Be confident. To me, confidence is definitely a frequency, and when you're confident in what you're doing, like people can sense that, people can feel that. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could just be like writing or sending out an email, like be confident in your delivery. Because I think a lot of times we often get nervous, or we tell ourselves no first before we're even afforded an opportunity for somebody else to tell us yes. So I would say be confident.
I agree. As a Black woman coming up, I suffer with what a lot of people know to be imposter syndrome. And I think that's where it stems from. And if you don't know, imposter syndrome is simply just not having that confidence in yourself, your abilities, your future, whatever it is. But like you said, Deja, it's so important to build that confidence and be confident, because a lot of times you tell yourself no before you've even taken the step, and who knows where you could end up, Right. So I believe that's great advice. So is there anything else that you would like to share with us? And please shout out your business and your upcoming projects. What you got going on, girl?
Yeah, so you can always, if you're looking for PR resources or any information about PR, you can go to my website, which is dejamonee.com. I have a free checklist on there that'll give you like the steps and things you can use to prepare you for PR. But I also have a PR shop, so there's like ebooks and courses and things like that, just so you can start to get yourself versed in the industry and determine if you even want to have incorporate PR into your marketing strategy. So yep, dejamonee.com.
All right, well, thank you, Deja, for joining me for this episode. It was so great talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And if there's anything that I can leave y'all with today, it would be, don't sell yourself short. Not sell yourself short. There are so many things that you can accomplish. Just like Deja said, all you have to do is have that confidence and go for it. So see y'all on the next episode. T. Westbrook signing out. Peace.